So, first of all, just to say welcome to this session. For us, this issue of leadership and leadership development is an issue that we see many, many organisations finding challenges with. So challenges in the sense of particularly succession. So as we've interviewed CEOs over the years and you say, what stops you sleeping at night? It's very, very often something to do with their senior team, or something to do with leadership, or something to do with staffing. And that those issues take many guises, but that's what we see again and again. So in this session, we'd like to do two things. We've said that we'll share some of the research we've been doing. We've been interviewing senior leaders, a number of whom are here, and we're continuing in that process. And we've really now got a bank of really good in-depth interviews, and we can share some of the summary results from those. And we can also send you out the report when we complete it, if you'd like that. But let's start with you. So what we'd like to do is invite you to participate in this study. And you've been sitting listening all week to other people. Now this is your chance to discuss with each other, which I think is very important. And a huge part of the value of a conference is actually that you get to discuss with others. Do come and join us. We're just starting, so do join in. So what I'd like to do, this venue isn't exactly ideal for what I'm going to suggest, but I'm sure you're extremely creative and I'm sure it'll work. I'd like to invite you to discuss in groups of 2 or 3 or 4 a question, and this is the first question we asked in our leadership study, slightly differently worded, but I'd like to ask you a question about the qualities of leadership. So what I'd like to invite you to do is to move together with 2 or 3 other people, preferably people you do not know, so you're meeting new people, and just to discuss this question. And then when you've had a chance to think about it, we'll take your responses and we'll see what we come up with. So this is our question. If you think about a leader who's made a real impact on your career, your life, what qualities did that leader display that really made a difference? So if you think about that leader, what were those qualities? So would you like to move together in small groups and just discuss this question? Okay, so my colleague, I should have introduced you actually to my colleagues Tracey, Talentino, who's just sitting here interpreting, and Becky Holmes, who's at the back taking notes for us. So I'd just like to ask you, what qualities did you identify? So we'll go around, and so let's start with this group first, who's boasting 9 qualities. Oh, yes, there is a mic, just a minute. So I haven't quite got the measure of this room yet. It's a little unusual it's a little unusual as a workshop room. Thank you.
One quality of the leader is he grabs the microphone first. So we came up with 9. We have to be a part of a team.
Yeah, we'll have, say, 4 of your 9, and then we'll go to somebody else. Okay. So part of a team, yeah.
Okay, you'd like 4?
4 to start with, and then we'll go around the others, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay, in this case, passion for the poor. Pays attention to details for execution.
Okay.
And uses both new and old technologies.
Okay, excellent, good, thank you. Good, so yes, pass the mic round.
Okay, we had about 5, and based on our group, one of the members said what really she learned more from this person was affirming.
Family?
Affirming.
Affirming, yeah, great, yeah. Affirming their qualities and who they are, yeah, okay. Excellent.
And then another member also said that the person really had an impact was somebody who showed empathy.
Empathy, yeah.
And then also somebody who really listened to them.
Listened. Yeah.
We also had somebody who was a visionary and somebody who is passionate about what he or she was doing.
Yeah.
Creative leader. And lastly, we had somebody who said a leader who's exemplary.
Exemplary, okay, great. That's a very, very good word. Okay, good, excellent. So let's go to this group now. Oh, microphone.
Thank you. The person should have a strong motivational capacity,
Yeah,
have a strong personality,
yeah,
be ethical or principled,
yes.
and then be a good communicator, and
Okay.
then have the capacity to share knowledge.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So, and the two of you? Okay.
A leader, they need to know how to listen to people. They don't lose their principles and for what they're working, and they keep focused on the principles. They take a risk to innovate. They have a vision for the future. They support the good ideas of others, and they're motivating.
Okay, great, thank you. Did any of you have any more qualities? You had 9. Have your others all been covered now, or do you have anything else to add?
Experience working at the field level.
Okay. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, so experience working at the field level, we would add. Okay, so yeah, I guess innovation was already there. Which one? Team member and good at delegating tasks.
Good at delegating, yeah. Okay, thank you. Anybody else got any more? Yeah.
Have impartial.
Impassioned?
Impartial.
Impartial. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, very good.
And
Yeah.
we have hardworking, and we have someone who's firm and can make good decisions.
Okay, excellent. Good, thank you. Did you have any leadership qualities? You've joined us since we started. Anything you'd like to add to what you've heard?
Some of the leaders with whom I worked, had some good qualities which really helped me to work efficiently. That is, somebody who believed me and delegated, and somebody who didn't micromanage my performance.
Yeah, yeah.
That brought out the best out of me.
Yes, okay. And that's a challenge, to be that sort of leader who leads and doesn't micromanage but provides exactly the right amount of support that different individuals need. Okay, thank you very much. So if you'd like to hold on to the microphone for a minute and then we'll pass it around when we need it again. Okay, so I'd like to share with you what we found in our study. So we talked to 4 groups of leaders, and we're still doing the study, so this is just very, very early days. And we did in-depth interviews. And we had a group of industry founders, people who founded institutions 20, 25, 30 years ago or more, and were seen as the leaders of the industry in some ways. We had organisation builders, so those people who'd taken over an institution and grown it once it had started. We had innovators, and in our innovators we were trying to interview people who'd really broken the mould and done something completely different, so they'd changed the game. And then the next generation of leaders coming through, who had, were really at an early stage in their careers. And when we started, we thought that these 4 groups might have different perspectives. But as we've looked at the interviews, what we've realised is that most people would probably agree with all of the qualities that the different groups came up with. But the emphasis is slightly different within the groups, and and really we're talking to leaders at different phases, different stages of their career. So in this first stage of their career, people coming through, some of those people may be innovators, so they may move to that stage of being innovators. They're learning, they're seeing what's going on. Some of those innovators are moving to being organisation builders once they've created a new platform And obviously, in 25 or 30 years' time, we might be hearing from any of these groups as founders of new ways of working. And what we found was that there was consistency over some things. So everybody thought that vision and mission was important. They expressed it in different ways. Collaboration was strong. When we look at the industry founders, they were focused on vision and mission, as we said, collaborating, motivating and empowering others. Client focus was very much about the microfinance client, and very high touch, as we were saying when we did the plenary the other day. So in other words, the relationships with clients are often deep in clients' lives. They're understanding clients' lives, they're often thinking beyond just the financial need to the whole of clients' needs and seeking to meet those needs. Accountability to the industry and to clients, and persistence being important. We have to keep going with this task that we've set ourselves. And what was interesting about this group was that it was very coherent. The group were really talking from a very similar perspective. They had a shared view. There were some differences, obviously, but they had a shared view of the industry and what it is. The organisation builders were focused much more on how do we build a team, managing people, recognising others. So more people qualities, not that the industry founders didn't have them, but the emphasis was somewhat different. And then thinking strategically, thinking about the long term. And these are just the most mentioned qualities for each group. Balancing social and business objectives and the challenge that represented came all the way through, but was particularly strong in this group. And again, collaboration. When we came to the innovators, it was quite different. So these were people who have really changed the game in some way. Obviously, the industry founders changed the game as well, but these people are currently changing the game. They're doing something quite different. And I was talking with Merida yesterday about technology. We were having a discussion about technology and innovators in technology. And what we found in this group is they're coming in with a completely different perspective. So they have a commitment or a vision to do a particular thing, and they're driving it forward, and they're driving it forward in very, very different ways depending on the context or where that vision sits. So they're bringing in new ideas from a different perspective and changing the game. Engaging with diverse stakeholders was very, very important to them, and those stakeholders were very, very different depending on what they were doing. So we spoke to, for example, the CEO of Athena in Nigeria, which has changed the whole game for financial inclusion in Nigeria by presenting data on financial access across the sector. And the words access to finance now becoming common amongst many, many institutions when they weren't thought about at all. So the central bank, banks, mobile money operators are all engaged in that conversation. So it's really shifted a game in a country. We talked to Richard Leffley, who set up Microinsure, and people have different views about Microinsure, of course, but actually it has changed the game and the conversation around microinsurance. It may be provocative, but it has changed the game. So persistence and resilience were really important here. They all mentioned this, and everybody had different ways of explaining it. But it was basically whatever you think, you believe in what you think, you check it out, doesn't matter if people disagree, you go for it, and you have to stay with it and be persistent, whatever happens almost. And actually, if you look at research on small businesses, for example, that if you look at what makes a small business succeed, one characteristic that stands out above all others is persistence. So no matter what happens, you stay with it. And almost the more difficult it gets, the more you stay with it. So self-belief, single-mindedness, refusing to give up, and engaging with diverse stakeholders twice, so obviously doubly important, and deep technical knowledge in their area. So they need to have that deep technical knowledge for credibility. And then stakeholders, as I say, that are engaging are quite different. So some were dealing with large corporates, getting them to invest. Some were dealing with a whole range of stakeholders in their national context. Some were moving a particular technologies forward, so completely different sets of stakeholders for the different individuals. So that coherence that we heard with the industry founders was not there in the innovators because we were talking to people doing very different things. And they were still committed to the client, but the relationship with the client was very, very different. So what they were doing was they were listening to clients, doing market research, understanding the needs of clients, and then seeking to meet those needs, but with a very, very different relationship, a much more transactional relationship in a sense. So we're selling a service, or we're enabling a client to use a service, and the only thing we're providing is actually that service. So we'll continue to listen to them, but we will provide that service, yeah.
Is this primarily microfinance people?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture. Mostly microfinance, though. Yeah, mostly.
And what about age?
Age, yes. So in terms of the age of the respondents, well, as you might expect, that group, the industry founders, were probably over the age of 50. Some of the organisation builders were also probably over the age of 50. The innovators, probably 30s, 40s, and the next generation, 20s, early 30s. So there is an age. This is why I'm saying I think these are different phases of an individual's leadership career. And certainly, we didn't actually age profile, but yeah, age would also be a factor. So very, very different at different stages. And then with the next generation leaders, this was again quite different. So this group, and we need to interview more people in this group, but it was very much about relationship. It was very much, again, about vision and inspiring others and listening to others. The relationship with clients was slightly different again. So if we think about the industry founders had a very close relationship with clients, as we said, but coming from perceiving themselves as different from clients. The next generation of leaders, interestingly, didn't perceive that difference. The way they talked was quite different. It was just, well, we sit with them, they're our friends, we know them. It was just as though there's a much more open field, in a way, that the next generation of leaders are operating in, and open field in a number of ways. So open field in the sense that we're all networked, we can connect with each other, there's big social networks that we're part of. A relationship is very important, and again we're focused on stakeholders, but in quite a different way because we meet those stakeholders in very different ways. So we need to do some more work on this because we don't feel we've got this clear yet. But this is what's emerging in one way from this study. So I think what we're seeing now is this possibility of actually thinking about what do leaders need at different phases of their career, and what are the characteristics of those different phases. So would you like just to comment on this? Tell me what you think. Does this make sense? Yeah. Can I take the mic? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does experience have anything to do with the age of the industry founders compared with the next generation of leaders? Because obviously the industry founders have done this work for a while. They've acquired a lot of experience along the way. And the next generation of leaders probably have little experience. They're very innovative, young. They see a future and they have a vision for the future. They're probably somebody who is an industry founder may not have had at their age.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't ask industry founders what was your experience at a young age, because I'm sure if we hadn't done, in fact I knew some of them when they were quite young, they did have a vision for the future. But as you say, then now that vision is tempered with massive experience and very substantial experience and a very measured and sort of deep knowledge really of the sector. And innovation, of course, is happening still. It's happening all the time. And it tends to be innovation built out of almost incremental improvement. We see we're doing something, we change it, we adjust it, we adapt it. Whereas the innovators were coming in with a completely different view. That's not to say somebody can't innovate at the age of 60, of course they can. but this is just what we were finding in our conversations that we had. Anything else you'd like to comment on? Because I've got some more questions for you to work on as well. So, yeah?
Just one comment. I was listening to a program on National Public Radio about the high-tech industries.
Mm-hmm.
And 25 years old is old.
Yeah.
For the average worker,
Yeah.
and code writers and product developers. And 35 years old is like retirement.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's amazing.
It's a different world.
It's really
Okay.
skewing things.
Marina, would you like to say something about your financial inclusion and fidelity? Because I think you also have a young population.
I think in this industry, things, I guess the difference in age is different from in the tech industry. But we are also having this issue here because I work in the financial inclusion unit in a commercial bank in Ghana, and we are now going down market. And so my department, I think my director is about 40 and everybody else is less than. And in the heads, we are about 6 heads of departments. I'm the only one below 30, but everyone is between 30 to 34. And there's a bit of that gap where people are like, okay, you're young, you know how to do it, but where's the experience? You know, and so I think this, with the tech industry, it's coding. You know, you make something, you go. But with this, it's ideas to change clients' life. You come with an idea, and where's your experience to bring this idea to fruition? And that's what you were saying. You know, we have the ideas for innovation, but the industry founders, you know, have the experience. And so there lies the balance of who are you going to listen to? Are you going to give people a chance where they have no experience because they have the passion to do it? And that's why there's a very vast difference in how we look at things both ways.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. So I think this question will go into more depth, if we may, as we go forward. Any other comments or questions? Yeah. Could you pass the mic back? I realise the logistics are not wonderful, but we're very creative. We'll make it work. Okay, go ahead.
Just want to share my thoughts on this, because in my own experience, like this, I belong to the next generation leaders.
Yeah.
So this is my thought of what leaders' quality are based on my generation.
Yeah.
But looking at these results, I see that as a next generation leaders, I find that there's still some qualities which I would not have as a next generation leaders, which I see from those other generation, like in the industry founders.
So what are those qualities that you feel that the industry founders have that you personally feel that you have yet to gain, or that you don't have?
Yeah, the client focus, the persistence. Because if I am a next generation leaders of this microfinance or the social business, so I think I should not divert from focusing on the clients, because that's the main reason why we are here.
Absolutely.
So, but if I am next generation leaders, I would not have the qualities from my founders, then I am worried about the future of the microfinance. So,
yes.
What could be the blend of next generation leaders that we can learn from all this? Because if we just rely on what we believe the leaders for the next generations are, then we might fail in delivering what these visions are for.
Yeah, exactly. So the industry founders grappled and have continuously grappled with this balance between financial results, financial outcomes, sustainability, and social commitment and commitment to the client. And that's been a tension over many, many years. And those battles that were fought around those issues and are still being fought on a daily basis, those tensions have to be managed all the time. So as you rightly say, if a new generation come in without that commitment to the client, or with, and without that awareness of those tensions, then the industry may go in a very different direction. Okay, great, thank you. So I'd like to ask you to join us in some more questions. So, first of all, are there any other qualities that you think leaders of the future will need? So if you put yourself in the situation of the changing world that we're in now, Are there any other qualities you'd like to add to that list that you think future leaders are going to need? Anything to add here? Yeah?
Well, looking at the leaders today, I think, most of the young leaders I see today, I think I see a sign of being impatient.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's really a need for them to realize that for something to work, we don't need shortcuts. We
Yeah.
have to follow the process. But I tend to see them most all the time being impatient, and I think this one needs to be instilled in them to really take the long route before they cut shortcuts.
Okay, thank you. So you young leaders are impatient. Okay, we're going to have a controversy now. Good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think mine's related to that. It has to do with personally being a master of new technologies.
Yeah.
That one of the dimensions of respect from next generation employees or co-workers is that the leader herself or himself are extremely adept and using new technologies. If it feels like, so leave that to the young people, the leader doesn't have a chance, I think.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I wanted to comment on the impatience bit, because if you actually look at those two bars at the top, there are a lot of things that overlap.
Yeah.
For example, we're saying young leaders are impatient, but sometimes their passion can't be seen as impatience.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Like, they're very passionate about seeing this happen to the client. So they don't understand why people are there and they're like, okay, let's take our time, let's do this. Because fine, in the past everything was, very structured. But we live in a generation where everything is about technology. And I understand we live in a generation where everything is fast food, fast drinks, fast everything. But we also need to be able to, and it's good, I can see that one of the key things to the founders was motivating and empowering others. And to the young generation was inspiring others. Which means that everybody has that need to have a dialogue. And what young people need is that mentoring to be able to turn that passion into results and understand that you don't have to be impatient. And then the founders also need to understand that, okay, it's not impatience per se, but it's a passion. And how do we leverage and channel this? For example, even talking about technology. Young people, it's easier for us because we are so fast to grasp the technologies that would work for the clients. Because I, for example, managed to push a new technology we're using now, only because when I came, I just didn't like the mobile technology we had. I mean, it was a USSD code. Press this, press 1, press 2. It took me 5 steps to send money. I was like, I want to press a button to send the money. And now everybody has realized that works better for the client, because for the illiterate client, if there's an icon he presses that he sends money, or she presses that she sends money, it's easier for her, it's better for her. So sometimes we have to look at this impatience or passion as something that can actually serve our clients better.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. So we can go deeper into this question. I just wanted to share with you, and we will, as we go through this session, share some quotations from the interviews that we did, and this is from Larry. So talking about visioning, thinking about what could be that isn't there, letting others share and get hold of that vision, and then making it about the mission. So not about me, but about the mission and the organisation, what it's doing, but not about the organisation in its own right, but how we're going to achieve that mission. Okay, so I'd like to invite you to participate more deeply in our survey, and we've got 4 sets of questions. And what I'd like to do is I invite you to be in 4 groups. So this is one group. Okay, so let's hear what your reflections are on these questions. So first of all, group 1, what 3 issues do future leaders need to think about for the financial inclusion sector? So what are the 3 big challenges that have you come up with 3, or Okay? Okay. Where did the other mic go? Does anybody have the mic?
It's on the table.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay.
Well, we thought that the issues we need to be thinking about in, like, first, what other services are needed. Like we were talking in the morning, the microfinance in Mexico, for example, is very related to credit.
Yes.
There are so many other services that we can provide that will improve the life of our clients, savings, pensions, insurance, some, like a lot more. There's also an issue of people that are not currently being served. And with technology, you can have both efficiency to make what we're doing now better and to reach people that are not being reached already. So the use of technology.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. We're doing Spanish translation down here, so if you'd like to come down here, Tracey's, do you want to just say?
Sí, si ustedes prefieren trabajar en español, sí, en este grupo trabajamos.
Okay, carry on.
Well, and the last one was, it's hard to summarize, but it has to do with the real social value of where's the boundary of the for-profit and the social profit that we're looking for, and it has to do with really helping people reaching a better quality of life. I don't know if that summarizes what the illustration was.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. So, any comments or questions for this group? Any other issues that you think are really pressing challenges or issues for the for future leaders? Anything else you need to add to this list? Okay. So group 2. So should we take the English-speaking group 2 and then we'll take the Spanish-speaking group 2? So what did you come up with?
Okay, I'm sorry, we had a comment on
Okay.
the first question.
Yeah.
Another, they brought up two important issues that are current issues and on the cutting edge kind of, but another important issue, an older issue, is how are we serving clients, yeah? And not to lose the focus and view on the client.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So, okay, well, let's go ahead with because you've got the mic, Tracey. Let's go ahead with the feedback from this group.
We're on question 2.
Yeah.
We have to look for ways of finding new talent, sort of have new structures, bringing in new talent. And then we have to cultivate that and develop that so they have greater competencies in technology, and perhaps now they may need to speak multiple languages.
Yeah.
But most importantly, that it's someone who is passionate.
Okay.
And develop this passion in them for the market. And don't be afraid of working with people who are very, very poor.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So the team at the yeah. Okay. And the team at the back for question 2. Behind.
Yeah. So, two things that were key: the experience and quality of leadership in the institution.
Yeah.
And then, as well as the full context and vision, most often lies in the older generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if there's no intergenerational transfer of the knowledge, then that puts the institution itself and the clients at risk.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to develop senior leadership, pick people within the young generation that you're going to train and mentor so that these things can continue.
Yeah, okay. I've got some more reasons to add to this one. Because from our perspective, when we work with institutions, very often they're facing high staff turnover if they're in a difficult labour market. Very often they're finding it difficult to find senior leadership to take over. And very often there's quite a gap between senior leadership and those coming through. And so if there is that route there for the younger generation to develop and grow and be prepared to take on senior roles, then the organisation is robust and stable. If that route is not there, then often the organisation will experience continuous churn of not maybe very good staff. So you can start to retain those staff, and giving those staff a career perspective is one of the ways in which we can really both work on staff retention but bring together the organisational stability for the future. So if you think about what Nasser Al-Khatani was saying from AgFund on Wednesday, seems a long time ago now, on Wednesday, he was talking about the way in which AgFund actually give people a vision from their career from the very first day they come into the organisation. So from the very first day they're saying you're a loan officer now, in 2 years or a year you'll be a branch manager and then you can do this. And by the way, here's our CEO who came in as a loan officer in the beginning. So right from the beginning, many organisations we've looked at that are very good at retaining staff, they're giving that vision for the career and the potential for the future right from the first day. So there's a sense of ownership of the organisation, and as you rightly say, there's that possibility of really transferring the institution's knowledge, its DNA. And one of the things that several of the leaders said was about really making sure that the mission and the vision is embedded all the way through the organisation. So I think these things are actually very important, and many of the organisations we work with, they're sort of accepting that there's a lot of challenge around these issues, and there are ways of dealing with it, and there are ways of developing leaders, and there are ways of retaining staff in difficult labour markets. Okay, excellent, thank you. So let's go to group 3. How can we support and develop future leaders for the industry? I'm going to be interested in what you think. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, here's your mic.
Three things mainly were discussed here. One was related to a lot of mentoring and coaching, on guiding and motivating young leaders, constant dialogue, keeping track and actually being there. No? Second thing was to promote among young leaders the capacity to listen to each other and to cooperate. So to make a lot of emphasis on that, as they are becoming and rising as leaders, that they are going to be able to cooperate from the team. And thirdly, it was the idea of giving project management from a young leadership age and supervise that. For them to raise, to have more confidence and to be able to start taking more and more serious roles. So
you're giving opportunities for taking responsibility.
And supervise that.
So there's support. It's not just I'll give you a job and leave you alone, but it's actually supporting so that those people can really develop and learn as they go. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add about supporting the development of young leaders? Yeah.
Leaders are not born, they are made. In Spanish it rhymes nicely, in fact. It's an expression
but
that
we have the same expression,
So we have to work at this. We have to have schools for leaders, for leadership, to develop them. To develop good leaders. They have to be developed with us. But we don't want to be creating we don't want to be creating any undesirable types of leaders. You know, we want to develop good leaders, and again, the whole point is develop them.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, Merida.
I think another key thing is mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have a lot more mentorship of the young people that are coming in. And more of the financial inclusion sector being ingrained in the academic sector. Because sometimes when it is, it's more at the PhD level or at the master's level. But at the undergrad level, or even in college, or even in high schools, you rarely hear people talking about microfinance or talking about financial inclusion. But we need to get the very young generation actually interested about it and knowing about it.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other comments on how to develop the younger generation? Yeah. Can you pass the mic across?
Well, I think one of the challenges actually there in trying to bring them up actually is also the identification of what we think should be a leader.
Yeah.
We have nice cases coming when we find somebody who is hardworking, and then this person gets promoted to that position of leadership. But really hard work at the end is not really leadership. So we really need to differentiate between the two before we can say this person can be a leader. So that when we give the support, we really give the support to somebody who we know can actually be a leader, rather than just being a hard-working person.
Okay, great. I'd like to say something about that. So what we've identified through our work is that people who have that potential to be the rising stars in leadership and to be the innovators often feel like trouble in the organisation because they have different views, they're seeing the world from a bigger perspective, a broader perspective. They may not have all the knowledge, skills and experience they need to deliver on the capacity they have, but they're already showing that capacity. So they're already showing that they're thinking from a broader perspective. So they may come in quite young and know how to run the organisation. Now they couldn't actually do it at that stage, but they've got lots of ideas. So they can seem very, very challenging. And so to actually develop somebody who has that potential, needs to be a way of find a way of giving them a big project, giving them something they can own, that they can deliver on, that uses that potential that they have. It's not always a comfortable experience. But then the other thing, as you rightly say, that we tend to do is we tend to see this person's doing well, let's promote them. And when we promote them, we're often promoting above where they perform well. And so many times we've seen somebody who's doing really well, they get promoted and then they start to fail. And when they start to fail, what happens? Either they leave the organisation, which is what usually happens, or actually they would need to go back into a role at the level they had, where they would say, well, for a little longer. So one of the ways you can tell this is somebody's happy, doing really, really well. So in that stage, we don't promote them. But then, when they start to get dissatisfied, or they start to want to do something more, they start to want to go away and study, or there's a sign that they want to do more, that's the time to think about promotion. So, there's really careful management of people's careers that we're talking about here. And often, in our own organisation, when everybody's very busy, it's often difficult to think about that. But this sort of patient work of developing and supporting the development of future leaders is really, really pays off, in my view, every time. Because, you really, really see people's potential develop, and the mentoring that you were both mentioning is really part of that.